Hello everyone, Alex here, and this is a new tier list. So we start with Supergirl. I just brought her to D just to not have her at F alone. They introduce some Frostbite characters. Not like she's gonna get some play, but leave her there. Maybe Killer Frost at some point will revamp her. Although there's so many characters now in the game that I'm not really excited about Killer Frost as I once was. Then you have Sapphire, again, not a great character. I don't see many people using like a healing compositions. There are many other teams like with Poison that makes it you won't use them in Elite Arena or somewhere anymore. Bloodsport, some people are using him with block. He's okay, but okay, I mean, he loses the block mirror match against my team, but at least he's good enough for those people to even match up against me. I don't know, he's okay, but not great. There's many other characters that are better, even like Tanks higher on the list to throw with your block team. Bloodsport is not really the guy. You have Weasel, he got like a buff. I don't see him getting more play, but he's a little bit better than he used to be. He is less bad, and as an anti-hero he can fit with 11 seed kids. That's not a terrible team. Vixen, she got a buff. Again, no one is using Vixen. Maybe instead of Blue Beetle, if you don't have Blue Beetle unlocked and you try to make a block team. But even then, I would probably recommend you use like a Peacemaker, Aquaman, something like this, with 4 pieces of block on them, and you get more value everywhere. Vixen is just an okay character. Then we have those characters here I brought down to D just for it to be also a straight line and everything look nicer. I hired Dr. Fate as a mercenary at rank 10 to try with the new sacrifice team, and frankly he was worse than if you throw in like a Zatanna or a Raven that aren't even characters. They're plug and play, but they aren't characters that would necessarily improve or fit the balance out sacrifice team. So the new sacrifice team to a big degree has a negative synergy with him, so he does more damage when everyone on his team is low, but you have Pandora and Aquaman healing the team over and over again, so you cannot really take advantage of his kit. So many new DPS, so let's use it for him and teams. Also legendaries. Why would you invest 8th metal on the Doctor Fate where there's like 10 legendaries at least that you would prioritize over him? Robin fell down. Like, okay, you can use him in the back row challenge. He has the team synergy. I use him in against Ultraman in Evil Falls and he's decent. But besides that, like, even if you want to kill the opponent's back row quickly in some main stages or something, you may want to just use Ivy or a Poison team, or if you want to do Wonder Woman, you can still like activate a different team synergy that does more damage, like Red Hood, and you can have like a Penguin and giving 10% more damage. You can have a Two-Face in the back row, and you don't need to fill a spot for a DPS that won't do much besides like his team synergy. That's only for the first 3 turns you deal more damage to the back row. He's not really great. He's not using single target with league challenges. So besides the Evil Falls, he doesn't really get much play. He's annoying to go up against in main stages, but even then we can have many solutions against him. So yeah, his D tier is not really great. Martian Manhunter, with his cleanse and healing, many people were using him in a block comp and was strong in the mirror match, but I think there are better options now with Aquaman and stuff. A heal team is not really a great thing. Many other legendaries to prioritize 8th Metal 4, and he's not really available. And you have Dr. Poison. Dr. Poison is meh. She's okay in her team, she helps with that, but besides that, I wouldn't see her being used outside of her team. The whole Poison team, the new characters, maybe I need a little bit more testing to be very solid about the placement, but I feel good about where I have them now. Maybe they would be a little bit different the next time when we have more testing with them. But Dr. Poison, besides the Poison team, I don't think she will ever be used. You can sub her out of the Poison team and still have a functional Poison team. But the Poison team is strong, so she at least gets a C tier because can even go into main arena probably. And they're awesome now in Elite Arena. Then you have Starfire, I guess. I'm gonna confuse them with Sapphire. She got a small buff with Brother Eye too. The burn team is not bad, and many people are using them with the first league challenge where they will have Guy do most of the damage and they have only DPS, so no tanks, and they can add Mr. Terrific as the 5th character, 3 burn characters like Starfire, Superboy, and either like Dr. Phosphorus or Superman DCU. So Starfire gets play in that comp and can be a way like you can do a very big score with that. As I said, the burn team is not bad, so okay, have her at CTR. She's used in some kind of valuable content, but she's not great, and she's one of the worst characters in the team. Jessica, I see Jessica sometimes in very strong comps or doing great things against me in Elite Arena. Not extremely often, but she's an interesting character if you have her with other characters that apply a lot of shields. Lex is not really the guy anymore for that. He kinda with extra energy all the time, especially in main stages, he's kinda bad. But other like Green Lanterns like Hal or even Guy to some degree, I see some comps with Jessica and she's strong. So people say that her buff in many situations is actually a nerf, so she's not necessarily a lot better than she used to be. I know in some comps she does great things and she can work with Mr. Terrific team, but I haven't really an investment into her, and I think there are many characters that are better DPS that are also more flexible that you can use without like a very heavy shield team around them and try to time the ultimates perfectly and what not. Bride, there's so many tanks now in the game and the crit team is falling off a lot, so she kinda fits the crit team, otherwise she doesn't fit really anything. Yes, she got a buff that survives with 70% HP, that's very nice, but so many tanks now that do more interesting things, so she kinda stayed the same. She received the buff, but she's getting used less. It's nice, like in the season where it was anti-heroes, she was very, very beefy, and if you have her and not some other legendary tanks, you can definitely get some play out of her, but she's kinda a character that usually if you don't have all the legendary tanks unlocked is not really a great option, and I have removed recently the gear out of her to put on other characters like Swamp Thing, like Aquaman and stuff, so she's in the bench currently for me. Flash, many people say he falls off late game, he does very little damage, like he feels like he's hitting like a wet noodle, they're saying. Some people were using him and are still we're happy with him, but I think there are many preferable legendaries again to put your 8th metal into. His stick that he wants to go first and knocks back the action bar is directly countered by Zatanna, so if you have speed gear for pieces and the Philosopher's Stone on Zatanna, he can go before him, give action bar, and completely negate the advantage he gives. So he's not really a great character. He's an okay character that if you don't have other legendaries, he can get some play. Green Arrow, really, I haven't used him for a long time. He is just 3 damage, and he has a team synergy that's kind of okay. There's like 8 out of 24 people are doing area of effect in the first league challenge. He can get some play there. He has a team synergy that gives a little bit of buffs, but and I see him from time to time in Elite Arena, but he's not really great. It's Red Hood is better with Wonder Woman. So many DPS now, so I have him in the bench for a long time, and but I recognize he has some value early game, and he can be easily available and do great there, so kind of left him there. Bane, more tanks now in the game. He's fun to play with if you have a Bane with a lot of investment and characters around him that heal him, like Pandora that heal him a lot. He can be fun, can even be used with like a block comp, and he needs to be healed 30 times to do 3 ultimates, I think, and he has a higher stun chance and does a bit bigger healing. If I remember correctly, his kit. With also Master Team synergy, those 30 heals happen very quickly with a lot of blocks, but there's different characters that are better to use in PvP with block, and Blue Beetle is of course a lot better than him to use like in main stages. The heal team is not really great, and now they're countered by poison. So yeah, he's kind of a fun tank if you happen to have him big, but he's not really the best, and he doesn't really do damage. Like I felt like going against him like in main stages or system recovery, he deals a lot of damage, but I hired a mercenary with very big beefy Bane, and he just survives a lot by the massive heals that he does. He doesn't deal almost 0 damage. So it's kind of fun doing a lot of free ultimates with him, and many people are also using like Deathstroke that only has 1 cost of ultimate, but he's not really great. Bizarro, I moved to see. Usually, I don't see him in the burn team. I see the other 5 characters, also with like Dr. Phosphorus receiving a buff. He is better for that. There's many other characters, tanks that you can use with debuff that I think are better, and even debuff currently I'm not using them in main stages or in Elite Arena, so I just use like a Sinestro Raven in like many evil falls and in the 3rd league challenge. So other characters have outshined him a little bit, but he can fit many teams like burn, like debuffs, like even frostbite, or some people were using him like with other teams just for him to almost like a support, so that he heals. Like for example, was like the new sacrifice team people were using him like instead of Fate, and they were doing well in Elite Arena, but that was a bit earlier, a mid game more, not a late game. So okay, a good character, but other better tanks higher in the list. Penguin, now he has a team that he can do better in, but he's kinda squeezy a little bit if he doesn't get to heal a lot. So some people are using Green Lantern John and in the team, and sometimes they're replacing Penguin, sometimes like Dr. Poison, or even they can try to do like something like either move Ivy or Cheshire in a different team. But and he's a little bit plug and play. He can do more for example, like in Crisis Watch, I use him if I want to have a Wonder Woman area of effect ultimate that kills everyone quickly and I get the 10,000 points. So he's okay, and the first league challenge, but he's also not like awesome, and even in his team, he's a little bit better. He has a strong team now, but he's not like a great character. Phosphorus, I had an opponent in Elite Arena that has a big Phosphorus with a Chaos Crystal, and he sometimes 1v5 my team because when you hit him there's also a lot of reflect damage, but he has a massive superpower resistance, like 50% I think. So against a superpower damage team he can be strong, but at the same time I noticed that and I started using my Wonder Woman crit team. Then I have poison instead of them in Elite Arena, but I started using like Wonder Woman crit team against them, and they were walking all over them. So it's cheaper counter and it's more situational, but his ultimate I think is area of effect hits everyone. So in the first league challenge, him not being a tank can help you like do a guy Mr. Terrific Team Synergy. Not a bad character, also like a could go with 11 Street Kids. Then you have the 211 Street Kids. I know many people are using like if you have like a rank 10 probably Vigilante, they're using him in the second league challenge and they're doing great. Some people try to use this team in My Little Arena, but honestly, even if I hybridize them with like a Aquaman Mera or try to do a hybrid with them or with Wonder Woman, all three of my teams basically usually beat them, so they're not really amazing in PvP. They can be used. I tried them like a third team in main stages and they work fine, but having all the teams, I don't think they're a great team. But Peacemaker is a great character. But they're decent. They're nice. They're like a 6th, 7th best team or something. If you don't have like a crit investment in a crit team, that why would you now? I can see some people get using them even like in Elite Arena or main stages, but yeah, I leave them there at B tier. At rank 8 they were very bad, even their season for me in Elite Arena, and they weren't like a great in main stages. Yeah, then you have Two-Face. Two-Face is very interesting. He can fit with the debuff, but he can amplify the damage for other characters with like Wonder Woman. If you want her to be more likely to kill the opponent with her effect ultimate, he also gives them some sustain with some lifesteal. He can add like a silence. He's not a bad character. You can use him in against Owlman in Evil Falls and his team synergy. I used him for a time in Elite Arena with a debuff and they were doing okay. So he's a okay support that has some uses in the game, but with more teams coming, he gonna get less play now. Mera, she definitely is usable now. Some people use her as a tank with a debuff. Some people use her with a Justice Gang because she's tanky but not a tank, so you can activate Terrific Team Synergy. The Sacrifice team, it's not bad, you can use them. I use them in main stages for a while as my third team. With Aquaman, she definitely got a little bit of a revamp. Some people are using her, but there are if you have other characters higher in the list, usually you won't get to use her much, or maybe like in the third league challenge in sacrifice week, like Aquaman is great there. I don't know how much play, but I will get actually there. Cyborg is great for like a block mirror match, but I think that's his niche use. So yeah. Then you have Red Hood. Red Hood, I used him for a long time and he was great, like a crit team, but there's more and more teams that can beat a crit team or characters that counter the crit mechanic. I still use him sometimes like in something like system recovery when I want to beats by 6 turns or 5 because he gives you more crit damage and crit chance for the first 3 turns. He also can die and revive and do one more ultimate for free without cost that can do a lot of damage. I also use him as a single target in my second league challenge, and he's the second biggest higher damage dealer after Batman there. So he has some uses. He can kind of be used if you force him with 11th Street Kids and you have like someone that revives in the front row and can deal some more damage. He kinda lost a little bit of his value, but I see him from time to time. People try to use him in Elite Arena with other comps, like even with Ivy, to have her do 20% more crit damage on her first ultimate in the match. So I don't think he's ever fully dead. He is an interesting character, but he kind of fell down in the meta. He used to be like a arena meta when I started the game. Now I don't. Currently, I'm not using him anywhere besides Second League Challenge or System Recovery, as I said. Then you have Lex. Lex used to be probably the strongest rank in the game, and they did him dirty. They nerfed him that every time he does his ultimate, it has one more cost. But in a PvP situation, it doesn't get to be horrible because he at least does his first ultimate with 2 costs, and maybe you have someone else with a 2 ultimate cost going together in the second turn, so you get to squeeze one more ultimate in there. His second ultimate would be 3 costs as it was, and usually then the match is determined in the sorry, in PvP. He's okay. He's kind of plug and play. Some people are using him like in the second league challenge where you need a shield team, but he's not really like doing too much there. And again, with all the tanks, there's so many better options now for tanks that they provide protection even without like having to waste so much ultimate energy. Some bleed characters kinda negate his shields, so he's decent, but he's not great. Kinda same as Kid Flash. Kid Flash is like, he used to be the best healer in the game, but if you have a big Pandora, I relatively recently, like a few weeks ago, maybe a month, did bring Pandora to Bats 30. Bats 30 makes her ultimate also drain, so she heals herself, or she can heal herself. So I started using Kid Flash less and less. There's also many other teams that you can use that don't require a healer, like the Poison team or like the Justice Gang team, where you have other healing sources like the Mr. Terrific Team Synergy that heals you every time they remove debuffs. So Kid Flash, I kinda used him until relatively recently in my first main stages team with Block and Wonder Woman, but I use Pandora now instead of him because I have other options for the other 2 teams that don't need Pandora. I use him sometimes in a system recovery where you need to funny enough, he received like a buff recently that he counters the burn team, but I don't really see him getting used, and with a poison counter him, that's like that negates the buff. But I use him sometimes, as I said, like in system recovery, where you need to not have a tactical character, and it was like in the same team, like a 3-block Wonder Woman and Kid Flash. But as I said, at Bats 30, when you have Pandora, you may not ever get to use Kid Flash again. I moved his gear temporarily onto Dr. Poison, and I don't know how he does healing. Pandora cannot heal him or heals more spread apart rather than single target a lot of times. So, and Pandora does more damage. Adds a shield. He had some buffs that can be nice and he can help you sustain. So people are using him in Litarina with block and Aquaman. If you don't have like Peacemaker or Cyborg, you can try something like this. But yeah, not like a super impactful character as you used to be early game. At the same time, like he and Lex carried early game, you can have them easily available and they can still help you a lot early game. So, and they carry some teams. So they stay here at B tier. Guy, to be for Guy to be used outside of League Challenge 1 where he's a god and he does a massive damage and I had him now do like 1 billion damage for League Challenge 1. Let me show that. So that was a recent attack for me in League Challenge 1. So yeah, he's awesome there. He's the best character that ever existed there, and he carries all the teams and does both the damage and the healing. Outside of that, he needs to be at batch 30 to be usable. Maybe early game you can force him like in a third team or something, or mid game I guess would be with 2 or 3 teams. When he's at batch 30, he's a strong character that you can use like with just Skunk and he's decent. You can use him in main changes or Elite Arena. The other characters are stronger, they're higher in the list, they're more usable, easier. But if you want to use Guy, you need to have his artifact also at rank 3. It does a massive difference in league challenges. Then you have Grodd. Grodd is great in the debuff team. He's a decent tank. There's other tanks, legendaries that kinda get more play now. Even can be used in the debuff team, or you may not use your debuff team because you have other great options for main stages and Elite Arena. He can be used in the third league challenge sometimes and can help you activate Sinestro team synergy because you need to have a tank on your team. He is a nice character. Works great in the debuff team. Is okay outside of it. Cheap to ultimate cost and knocks back the action bar. As I said, there's so many other great tanks now that he cannot really get a lot higher, and the debuff team kinda falls off a little bit. Then you have like the Swamp Thing. Swamp Thing is a little bit more of a tentative placement for me. His team is great, but it's also a season in Elite Arena where they have more stats. I know he was used a little bit as a support, kinda like for his healing. Even with the block, I've heard about that. His team is nice. He's a interesting character. The jury's out a little bit of what his impact is going to be. I haven't really went up against a Swamp Thing that did a massive difference, although he sometimes was like in the back row healing a John in the front row, which was kinda interesting, but again it was a poison based team. It wasn't like plug and play outside of it. He's nice, definitely, like does a very big heal with his ultimate, that's more stacks of poison to the opponents. In the Poison team, maybe we'll have to see if the Poison team actually make it for main arena meta. Maybe he will be a little bit higher then. How great they will be main stages, they're very nice. Yeah. Then we go at A tier, we have Superman OG. OG Superman is very nice. with his budget 30 because then he spends 2 turns under invulnerable while he's about to die. 2 turns of invulnerable can be very strong. He also adds some control, knocking back the action bar with advanced attack. He put out some burns. Can work in a debuff composition, can work in a burn team, can just work plug and play just because of his 2 turns of invulnerable. But these other tanks that they do a little bit more because he's kind of squeezy. He can go early under the invulnerable, and yes, you have 2 turns guaranteed that he can do like an advanced attack or something, and you have the front row tanking still, and you can absorb ultimates, which is awesome. For once, like he's not used in the best burn team for the first league challenge. The burn team kinda is not really so much meta in Elite Arena. If you want to counter a block, it's better to use a poison team. They're probably more valuable in other game modes like main sages as well. He doesn't really do great damage, so yeah, he can add some burn stacks with his ultimate. He can knock back an action bar. He's nice with a shooter vulnerable, absolutely, but him just standing there and 2 turns of invulnerable where he does minimal damage and he adds little control and he doesn't really protect his teammates like other tanks do, like Peacemaker with a Saxo Shelter. He's definitely a nice character and strong, but not one of the best tanks necessarily in the game. Superboy is an awesome character, can work very well even if you don't try to do a burn team. You can use him in a Justice Gang team, and he's actually probably one of the best options in there, especially if you want to go against a block team and make them work, because he counterattacks on top of Oceanmaster's counterattacks. So Oceanmaster will counterattack you a lot, and he has like a 20% chance or something, depending also where you have his badge and if he's a rank 10 or not, to counterattack the counterattacks. For each counterattack Oceanmaster does, he has a 20% chance of counterattacking back. Each counterattack he adds 1 stack of burn. With 4 stacks you have a detonation, and you might kill him if you also started with a big ultimate like Ivy or Hal and you have him very low. He does decent damage on his own, like with his ultimate he hits many times. With the burns that he adds and the even passively like with counterattacks, he can work with a debuff team. And like with Superman DCU and like the buff the burn received relatively recently with Brother Eye, burn team can be a strong team that can have enough detonations to keep going with Superman with Superboy doing a lot of the lifting in there. I know I use him in Elite Arena, in main stages. He's used in the first League Challenge team, as I said, because he's not a tank. So Superboy is a very nice character, and even in main arena can get a play to counter a block team. Then you have Ivy. Ivy now with like a poison team, you can even afford to go a little bit cheaper on her, like maybe not use both Parallax and Lasso on her. Maybe you can go without Zatanna, maybe without all 3 because you just have many stacks of poison. So then, the when she does her ultimate in a poison team, the opponent will have a lot of poison on them, and she will still go for the kill, especially now that she has more stats this season in Elite Arena. So she can get play in a main arena, either as part of this gank composition with Superboy to counter block, or as a straight, or like 4-piece poison team. She's kind of squishy. She kind of is almost like a negative a little bit in the first league challenge back row, because she may have too much attack and get the parallax buff herself instead of a guy, so then you have to move her gear and put worse gear on her, which is kind of annoying to be doing every week. Now with also Cheshire in the game, that's a small reason she's that high. I want to try something similar with like Ivy, Cheshire, because she has a back row tag, and Robin having the 3 spots. So then you have also Guy again with them, and you can use terrific team synergy because there's no tank. Otherwise, they used to be like Penguin or Grodd that you had to use as the other back row characters that had the tank tag, so you couldn't try that. So maybe we get to do something similar like the Burn team is doing. I want to see to bring Cheshire to rank 10 to be able to use that, and to see if it's better than using Zatanna to have a more crit chance. So because the team synergy from Robin counts only for like 3.3%, even though it says like it gives like 90% more damage or whatnot stats, it's only 3.3%. I don't know how they do the calculation where it adds like maybe without any buffs like a gear and reinforcement stats and whatnot. But yeah. Ivy is a great character that can one-shot an opponent's back row, especially this season with more stats. Even like against block team that kind of their place to protect their back row and have also as a counter-attacking a lot. If you can clip him off with like Ivy, removing 80% of his life, and then Superboy finishing him off with a few counterattacks, then that's awesome. Moving on, we have John. John is like a very beefy tank, almost like Nightwing now. He may need some investment to get there, like to have his badge, so he starts with an ultimate, some investment into gear, definitely rank 10. I haven't gotten him there. There might be a fusion event coming with Green Lanterns from holding on to his fragments. Maybe I'm gonna use them there instead, and later bring him to rank 10. But and John is like, some people are using him in a poison team because he's a beefy tank, where Penguin and Swamp Thing are not. You can put like an artifact on them to help them survive a little bit more, but still John and with the counter attacks that he does and all, there were many situations where against a team like this, I was using my Wonder Woman crit team. I could kill everyone around him, but have only like 30% HP left on my team. Everyone alive, and he would 1v5 them with the massive counterattacks that he does and the massive shields that he has. Definitely a very interesting character that I want to invest into when I can. Also, like with the massive counterattacks that he does now, when he received the buff from the Brother Eye, he can trigger Sinestro a lot more if you want to use him in a debuff team. I know people are using him in a single target or in the second league challenge because he fits all 3 tags, and he is doing great. He adds like a exhaust on the SAD, so then he can do a lot less damage. Maybe you survive because of that. He also survives a lot by himself and like puts out some other debuffs on him. So yeah. Then you have Batman. Batman is the best character in a single target, although there are other characters now that get some play, and because it's bugged, and when you apply fear, you instead of what it should do, what it does, that you have a 100% crit rate, you actually have a 0% crit rate after that. So Batman with bat 30 in a composition that many of them, you kind of have to use characters that put out a lot of debuffs, especially the debuff tag. Can be kind of a negative with his bat 30 to apply fear, or you want to auto many times. So like John does counterattacks, when he does counterattacks he doesn't apply different debuffs, he applies the same as Batman, like a armor break, so you don't have enough for Batman to apply fear quickly. He's great there, he's using some evil falls. He's not really used a lot in like main stages or PvP, but you can fit him into a debuff team, especially if you have his budget rank 30. Just the reason he's there is because he's great in some evil falls, always mandatory, and same in the second league challenge. A little bit like a guy super light, like he carries that section. Not to the same degree Guy does, but to a big degree. So he's very high for that, and can be used in some game modes where, like even like in bosses with legendary events or stuff like that, where it's only one or two opponents, then his single target massive damage that he does becomes a lot more viable. Viable, and apparent, and he becomes the best option for that. Peacemaker is a great tank, more so like a tank slash support, like a second tank or even a back row tank, that I'm using him with block, and he's doing great both in main arena and elite arena. I like get so many defensive victories in arena, and they beat pretty much everything besides like Poison maybe in elite arena, and Poison now have their season, so I want to see what will happen after that when they have 100% less stats. But the shelter that he applies every turn is awesome. He applies some other debuffs like Fragile and Armor Break that you can deal a little bit more damage with other characters, especially physical damage dealers, but they don't have to be. You can use him in the main stages with a debuff, and he's kind of nice because of the shelter. He provides some protection when you kill opponents. He adds some extra 10% healing, so he adds the healing in this team that it doesn't have. Also, you may have Deathstroke in this team, and you can have them Peacemaker putting out Armor Break, and then Iglis putting out Fragile on the character or the tank that Deathstroke is hitting into, so you can take advantage of that and have both like a physical damage advantage from this team and extra sustain and a lot of debuffs, and to work with Sinestro and Fear and stuff. As I said, he can be used with a block and makes a great team in many teams, like even in crit he buffs them up. You can use him in many teams just so you have the shelters and you have more sustain. He's like a Lex level of adding sustain, but without the ultimate cost. You can have him later last as using his ultimate, and you should. His ultimate is kind of bad, but every turn he adds shelter that everyone in your team, especially also the back row that you want to protect, and you can use him in situations like in system recovery, where you, or in many evil falls where you want to protect the back row, especially in evil falls. Sometimes they hit you every few turns, so you always have shelter when they do an area effect attack. That's why I also use him in the second league challenge, and he ramped up my score when I used him instead of a Wonder Woman, and he must attack 8, Wonder Woman rank 10 with a way higher gear investment into her and artifact. Because he applies Fragile, he helps your team stay alive for more turns. great support slash tank that amplifies your superpower damage. He has a team like the 11 seed kids where you can kinda use them, but I prefer to use him as a plug and play outside of the team with stronger teams than them. Then you have Aquaman. He's kind of similar story. Like he has a team that is okay to be used. He also applies some debuffs that can be used with Sinestro comp or for the third league challenge where there's a sacrifice week. He can be used there, especially if he's bigger. He's invulnerable that he puts his whole team, really protects them and can be very, very strong in some situations. Some situations, the opponents will do a big area of effect on you, put 3 people under invulnerable, and after 2 turns where they are going to do the same character, the ultimate again, everyone's gonna be has lost their invulnerable without it really consuming something like tanking important ultimates, but in some situations it can really help you stay alive. This extra turn that he gives on everyone, him and himself, is very strong. He heals them, he adds a strong attack. He can tank by himself, he's not very bad at it. You can use him as plug and play like with heroes in a like on Verge's Crisis. You can squeeze him in a system recovery. He's with block I have him, and they're a lot stronger in Elite Arena and Main Arena. All around a very great character. Maybe he's not super tanky by himself. He's not extremely difficult to kill. His team was a little bit of a letdown. There weren't like a greater, better options for both for main sages and for Elite Arena. But he's a great character that you can use to amplify different team and to buff them up. I know some people would put like both Aquaman and Peacemaker at S tier. Would be too crowded, but I feel like they're a little bit too squeezy by themselves and their teams are not great. You kind force them as plug and play where maybe you could have better options, like teams that synergize better. Then you have Constantine. Constantine is an awesome character that, especially when you don't have Hal unlocked, he can carry a lot of like. I used him for a long time in all game modes with Block and Pandora, or with Block and Kid Flash. He was awesome. Now I use him both in main stages and in Elite Arena because I moved Ivy with Poison now, temporarily at least for the season. So use him with Justice Gang, and they're at least a good A tier team. I use him especially when I want to do any type of content that requires less turns, like team ups or system recovery. I use like a team with Wonder Woman, Constantine, and sometimes like Red Hood, Zatanna, just to have Wonder Woman and Constantine dealing massive area effect damage one of the after the other, and try to kill the opponents quickly. He's very, very strong with that. He adds some sustain, but he's also a bit of a double-edged sword because he sacrifices 15% of your team's HP. Aquaman negates that if you have them together, but I don't really use them together. Or negates some of that. And then he heals them back up. The problem is in some situations, especially with a block team, it's more like a mirror match goes to the team that has the most sustain. So the 15% sacrifice that he does to his team now at least counts as a sacrifice and can work with Pandora's team synergy, but usually you would use a different team synergy if you have this team like with a block, for example, you use also Master Team Synergy. But yeah, the sacrifice that he does makes your team more vulnerable to die by big area effect. And when he does an area effect damage, he may get counterattack to death later on in the match. But he also does a massive damage if he does it later on the match and might kill the opponents. A very nice character that when you unlock Hal, that might be available soon, then he gets a lot less play. So he was awesome for me, carried me for a lot of the game. But I also kind of recognize his limitation and that he's a little bit of a double-edged sword, and that there are better options. Like Hal's ultimate hits does a massive damage and can target down, if you get good RNG, someone that you want to kill quickly, while Constantine spreads the damage apart, and that's not that great if you want to have a quick kill in 5 turns to go for a system recovery or like a team ups or something like this. Hal can really get advantage out of like a Mr. Terrific team synergy, maybe a bit more, I don't know. Like you can use Constantine of course with them. There also have been this early game for many teams. I don't know if people still use that, like a Green Arrow, Constantine, Wonder Woman, because you get them very quickly. So he's great for early game. Then you have Raven. Raven is an awesome character that helps a little bit with the damage, helps with the sustain in an indirect way where she revives people that die. That can be very, very game changing in some situations, even in PvP. If you have a badge at 30, she also does a heal after that. That can be very strong. She's probably one of the, at least next 3 characters, maybe even the next one that I'm gonna go for, or the next tactical character series that I'm going for badge 30. Just it's Nesso recently. She can be used in many teams as plug and play, just to revive some people, to deal a bit of damage, maybe reduce the action bar and a little bit with her ultimate if you have some debuffs in the team. She works amazing in the third league challenge where she revives everyone, and it's all mandatory there, and with Sinestro they make an awesome comp. You can have a debuff team that are still nice, but they kinda, I'm not using them anywhere, but I'm using Raven with or sometimes I'm using Raven with Justice Gang team, especially when I had her with Ivy, because Raven can also put out potentially some more poison stacks, so Ivy can hit a bigger killing blow with her ultimate. She can be used in the second league challenge, but she's super power damage dealer, so I don't bet too much on her. I'm not using her there personally. And something like a system recovery, you can try to make a very big or very strong hybrid with a debuff and other characters that may work a lot better, especially where you want to not have like a mighty or a agile character, because there's many like tactical that can work great in a debuff comp. Some situations like with Sinestro, some evil falls get to use her and she does some nice things. So she's a very important character in the game, but not one of the first that you want to max out necessarily. You have Pandora. Pandora is the best healer in the game by a long stretch, especially when you have her budget 30 and when you have her at least at rank 8 and say budget 20. She starts out starts being better than Kid Flash. She kinda had like a negative where she was squeezy and she could die and she would never heal herself. She would actually sacrifice her HP. So if you have like the first main stages where the opponent deal massive damage to your back row, she would die after a few turns. So I was using Kid Flash instead of her, and she could go with Constantine on other teams. But or even early game, like you can activate her team synergy and try to make a team around her. A healer can be very strong and help me a lot pushing my main sages. But after a while, you have more options for other teams. You don't need Kid Flash. You kinda carried that whole that with her bad 30, she can use her life steal there on herself and survive. So I started using her with on my first main sages and system recovery, and they're doing great. Uh, Me being an evil falls like against Deathstorm. I use her in the second league challenge, and she does keep my team alive, so she's awesome there. I use her in the third when there's a sacrifice week. She kinda fell off a little bit with all the new teams that have some healing sources. So they don't need a healer that much, but it's also the best healer in the game that in many situations where you need or you would want some healing, she can be a game changer and awesome support. She also had some shields that are nice, and now she has a shield tag, so that opens a spot for the second league challenge shield team to use other characters with plug and play. Blue Beetle is one of the he's one of the best tanks in the game, but because he's in one of the best teams in the game, just solo to throw him in other teams, he would be worse than Aquaman and the Peacemaker, but kinda up there because he protects the back row and he protects against crit, so he's not a lot worse than them. But he has a great team synergy with Judomaster, and you can really lean to the block mechanic and stuff on other characters' kits. He can be very strong, like the block team is awesome and can be used in pretty much everywhere, like in the main arena. You can use him like as plug and play to protect your back row in something like a system recovery, where it's like a Bane area effect ultimate that could kill you, but Blue Beetle protecting the back row a little bit can help them be the tiny bit of difference to make them survive. He can be used as plug and play on a red team, let's say, or a hero team maybe. In Convergence Crisis, and he can be decent there. But he's a little bit of like, he's a strong tank, but not the beefiest. He protects the back row, but a support tanks, a Peacemaker, when you can reach the first turn, so if the opponent's first ultimate won't kill you, Peacemaker is a better option for that. Aquaman can be better in some situations. He also had healing, like more of support. So yeah, Blue Beetle is definitely one of the best characters in the game, or one of the best legendaries, or that will make a big impact. But he's kind of like kit based. You just have him sitting there and protect the back row, rather than if he's big, he will tank like crazy, or he will tank a little bit better. And if he's big, he will do at least a little bit of damage. Otherwise, he does 0 damage. He's nice, but I wouldn't say S tier. Then you have Zatanna. Zatanna is an awesome character that can be used in many teams besides like Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman can go to close to 100% crit rate by herself. And as the meta is changing, you can use her with other teams that if you want to go first and do a massive killing blow, like with Ivy, with Hal, with the Sinestro, try to do some sort of debuff team in some situations, can be very strong. So Zatanna's mechanic that she goes fast, having the Philosopher's Stone, and makes your whole team goes first and have the first ultimate, is very strong still, even having some more protection in the back row or characters that are anti-crit. She also helps you with the sustain, like with the life steal that she gives, and with the damage that your team is more guaranteed to crit. Like I use her in the first league challenge with a guy, and guy then is almost guaranteed to crit, and you can have a little bit more attack on his badge instead of crit, not on his badge, on his gear, and she helps a little bit remove some buffs and stuff. She's a nice support to have on teams. Hal, as I said, is an awesome character that can nuke some opponents, and with the like Jashir gang that work phenomenally with him and can help him survive and deal more damage. He can be an S tier character, and he's here. I heard him as a mercenary a lot, and he helps me with some content. Especially like if I want to kill the opponents quickly, he's very strong because, as I said, he hits many times that can hit the same person again and again, and kill a character that you want if you get good RNG. Again, some situations like in PvP, this can also be a little bit of a detriment because then you can get bad RNG and he can just hit the tanks, and rather than having like a Wonder Woman ultimate that hits everyone and can also put stun. He's also a little bit less available. I hope like we have a banner or fusion event or something soon. Even in Arena, I can see him like with some sort of Justice Gang team, maybe with Superboy. In Elite Arena, he's awesome. You can have a team like with Justice Gang, him, and Zatanna. So you go first, and you have Hal try to kill the opponents quickly, and it's very fun or unfun to go up against. Ocean Master has great team synergy, heals everyone, counter attacks. That can turn into bleed. I talked a lot about the block team. They're awesome. I use them main arena, elite arena. He gets the main sages, system recovery. I use him in team ups. He deals the damage in a high sustain. Block team because there's more 15% more damage in the arenas after every turn, so he takes advantage of that with his massive counterattacks that he does, and a little bit with his blitz late game. Then you have Deathstroke. Deathstroke is awesome when you have him at rank 10. At rank 10 he's okay, he's strong but not awesome. At rank 8 he's usable. At rank 7 he's trash. He's worse, he would go like D tier. So he needs to be very big to work. I'm kind of worried like some other DPS kind of have replaced them. I was using him in a main sages with a debuff, and now I'm not using debuff. I don't think I will use him in Elite Arena. He's not great. He's kind of squeezed in PvP. But you can use him in many like Evil Falls in the second league challenge. He's a big physical damage dealer. In like boss matches, in probably in like a Convergence Crisis, no, System Recovery. In the Agile team in Convergence Crisis, you don't really have many great options. You don't have many, or you used to not have many villain characters for the System Recovery, for the Convergence Crisis there. He can really fit into Sinestro because he takes many turns, puts out many bleeds. Also doing that, he gives back energy quickly. And when his energy cost is only at 1 at rank 10, that's a big reason he is a lot higher then. You can also use like turn 1, you can use his ultimate and a Grodd ultimate. Then you get to squeeze a lot more ultimates into. You can have something like an artifact that gives him more sustain, and he can be a killer then. He can drain like crazy. Then I have Cheshire. Cheshire looks like she's gonna be like an awesome character. Some people use her over Deathstroke, like have replaced Deathstroke with her in single target, and in some other content. But Cheshire has her own team. She has the team synergy that can be arena meta, a bit block in arena and elite arena. She can work both with poison and with bleed. It's very survivable. Easier probably to upgrade as an epic. Her mechanic where she goes under invulnerable and then she gets 1 or 2 turns of not turns, hits with a dodge mechanic. You can also have like something like a lifesteal on her and keep her alive, or like a risk gun so she takes more action bar quickly. I base her best placement here a lot on other people that say they have replaced the rank 10 Deathstroke with her, and that's a little bit better. Or how she performs against me, like in a elite arena. I see the potential in mine, and I definitely want to rush her to rank 10. Her having a team synergy and all for the poison team, that's a very strong team. It's definitely interesting. She has many interesting things in her mechanic, like her team synergy, like her toxin that she puts out. Still exploring her. Maybe it was quick to put her here. I was considering originally to have Deathstroke at least above her, but kind of leave it on if people are replacing Deathstroke with her for the second league challenge and they're doing a better score. It's probably great. I started also seeing people like in the boss fight now against the White Lantern. Yes, some people are using Deathstroke, but also probably like as many people are using also Cheshire. So she definitely is a very strong character that I want to rush. May get main arena, play. Some people try to hybridize block with them. Elite arena, main sages. She has many interesting tags like back row for the first league challenge that can then I can use terrific sim synergy for the second league challenge. She's a physical damage dealer for that. I see a lot of places where you can use her, even like in I'm sure they're gonna be like evil falls where it's gonna be great into them. She adds debuff so she can work with Sinestro. Overall, I see like many plug and play options for her, and she looks to be very strong with her like invulnerable. Moving on to like the Dust Skunk, you have Mr. Terrific that has a great team synergy. They kind of received the buff with a Terrific's ultimate working stronger now. Guy hitting more of the low HP targets. Terrific can really ramp up some superpower damage dealers like Hal. He adds a lot of sustain, almost too much in some situations. Can be used in something like boss fights, like legendary unlock. You want to use them sometimes there. Can even put Sinestro with them. Can be used in arena to counter block some comps. They're great in elite arena. They're great in main sages. They now have a week where a dampen week in the third league challenge, where usually people are taking advantage more of like someone like Hal, especially if they have them, and they can put out more scores because the fight against Seven Wolf is all about superpower, and they buff you up so you do more superpower damage. both with his team synergy and with all the dampens that they put out and stuff. So he's he's kind of like an tank character in the front row that tank support that moves the damage, spreads it around, so he can be a nice there, can be used in many positions. He does a little bit damage from himself. I particularly like his mechanic where he cleanses his team out of debuffs and throws them at the opponents. Can be very, very nice. He could work with Sinestro, of course, if you want to hybridize them in any way. You kinda need either Ivy or Hal with them usually for them to be like S tier, especially in PvP. You can kinda afford like Constantine and Superboy and trying to kinda make it A tier at least team. Then you have Superman DCU. I used him for a long time with debuff. He was a very nice tank there, but that tank is an awesome team as well. He can fit into a burn team. As plug and play with Sinestro, he can work great, like in things like Evil Force, like a third league challenge, even if it's not a dampen week. Can help with the damage, and he's a character that can deal a lot of damage on opponents' tanks. Then we have Nightwing. Nightwing is the tankiest, beefiest tank that he absorbs a lot and stuff. He may move down a little bit because the poison team kinda counters them. But he can work plug and play beside his team because of all the tankiness that he does and the damage that he deals when he gets hit. Then you have Sinestro. Yes, I don't use him currently in Elite Arena. You can use him with Dash's gang if you want in some situations, but he's so great like in Evil Falls, Third League Challenge, in something like a system recovery, especially when you have a color limitation, in like boss fights. He can be used in Elite Arena, and the debuff team can definitely be very strong in main stages. He can be used as a villain or as a tactical character for Convergence Crisis. He's definitely like a game changer and a character like even at rank 7 that they provide stuff for you when you unlock him. There's so many characters that put out debuffs and probably more to be released, so you may even get to have more play with him in some situations because there will be other great characters around him that all of them will contribute more. Then you have Wonder Woman. I have a long video on her. The TLDR kinda is like, yes, if it's not the character that used to be, like you just have her being 50% better than the second best, and she carries everything. Currently, I just removed her from Elite Arena, but it's also a season for Poison, so we will see what she does and if she gets back or not, because she was hanging there for a long time, and even in main arena. She's probably the best character you can pick early game and invest into, and having her carry you in most content, but slowly they're gonna start being other characters available, especially when you round up your roster, that you may end up using in many situations instead of her, like Sinestro in Evil Falls, like other characters in in the second league challenge against the South, because it doesn't really fit the vibe perfectly there. I still use her like for the first main stage, as I said many times. I use her until very recently in Elite Arena and in main arena. I still use her in a corner that you want to clear fast, but Hal is kinda better in that if you have him at rank 10 to hit a specific character and then whittle them down, especially something like team ups where it's only 2 opponents, so he can deal more damage to each one individually. He also gets more buzz from like a terrific team, while she doesn't really have her team like a great team. Has many counters in PvP, and is showing so in like main stages or in other player versus environment content. So you kinda use her outside of her team as a solo character that's still great. That's probably still the best all around. Like if you have one character that's gonna add the most value. But there starts to be more and more situations where different character feel specific niche things that she is doing better. So you, for once, her dominance in the game is a lot more questionable now. You can even argue that she's not the best character anymore. And if she's slightly better than the second one, she's not twice as better. There are some characters that counter the block mechanic now more, or protect the back row, or are better at nuking or can nuke her. So she's still hanging in the meta. She's still awesome and great, and I use her in most content still. And I get a lot of value out of her. But she has fallen from the all-out dominant that she was. She's still probably the best option for early game players because you can farm her fragments from a store and rank her up higher faster. You have her guaranteed from a banner. So yeah, that's it for now, guys.